Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel, and today we are here to cover Mateus Fernandes and how good really is he. And to do that we are currently with, well, a coach, but obviously ex-coach of Manchester United for 20 years, but he's still currently coaching and one of the best in the game when it comes to technical detail, and that is Neil Harris, and we're a pleasure to have you back on the channel as always. How have you been?
I'm all right, yeah, busy.
Good.
Busy, but it's been good, yeah, no, good to be back.
So obviously summer's coming up. Links are getting hotter for each club, for each player, and we're going to do our best to cover these players as they come and go. So we've got a really interesting one here, and it's Mateus Fernandes for West Ham, 21 years old, Portuguese midfielder, and we spent a good few days looking at him closely. Obviously, he's just played against Arsenal, really good performance. Neil's watched him a good few times in person, and I want to kick this off just by saying, What do you make of him? And I know we spoke a little bit off camera, but you like this lad.
I love him. I love him straight away. For his age, for 21, if you didn't know his age as well, you'd be thinking that's a mature player. And he's probably a player that immediately comes to your eye attention if you're not watching the game or you're neutral, etc. But when you watch him in detail, I think some of the things he does is very, very high level. You know, when I talk about players and top players, they do the simple things to a really, really high level, and he does all of those in abundance, whether it's, you know, receiving the ball in tight areas, no touch turns, screens, getting his body in, engaging contact, and we'll come on to some of his outstanding abilities. But for a player so young, at 21 years, and obviously playing in a Southampton team that struggled last year, obviously got the move to West Ham, again has obviously struggled, and again we'll talk about how maybe his role has changed from signing Southampton and for West Ham, and things coming up soon, but really, really exciting player for his age. Yeah,
I think, to be honest, he's one that's kind of take me back a little bit this season, because I know he scored a very, very good goal very early on in the season for West Ham at home. And since then, he's almost felt like he's took that in his stride and he's just become one of the better midfielders in the Premier League. And obviously, considering West Ham's current situation, which is, at the time of recording, must be, always said, they're 2 points in the relegation zone after Tottenham's draw to Leeds. Now, as Neil was saying, this is a player who's played in very different systems. And we always said this about Elliot Anderson, where it was like, they've adapted across the team in different phases throughout the course of the season. Managers coming and going, systems changing. Obviously, in the January transfer window, West Ham brought in 2 centre forwards, so they've gone more to a bit more of a normal 4-4-2, a bit more of a flat 4-4-2 with 2 big men up front. But obviously, when he first joined, it was Paqueta in front, and he played a little bit more of a 4-2-3, one with a more support around him. And I think I'm gonna start just by talking about how good is he on the ball, because I think I was explaining when we was having a conversation before, we was explaining a lot about, in terms of, he goes and looks for the ball, he wants solutions always to all the problems, and he's a very much a roaming midfielder. And I think it's just his completeness that we were talking about before, where it was like, he can play and come and get the ball in front here. He can make late runs into the box from a deeper starting position. He can ride contact in the middle. Oftentimes goes ahead of Souček, vice versa, a bit of a tandem. But then he can also score a goal. He can create a goal. And he's become a very, very complete midfielder, and one for me who can pretty much do it all. But can you speak about some of the technical detail on the ball? What have you made of him in terms of his eye for a pass, his weight of a pass, his long-range passing? Very, very standout attributes.
So the first thing, I'm pretty sure if you asked anybody in the West Ham squad, they say he's an absolute dream to play for, particularly because he will come and receive the ball in tight areas. He's always, support. We talk about on the ball, off the ball, away from the ball, in front, to the side, from behind. And he's always an option, whether it's Bowen that's got it on the right wing, whether it's Souček in there, whether it's the left back. Fernandes demands that everything goes through him. And I'm pretty sure if you ask Jared Bowen, the passes he's had a lot earlier coming from Fernandes, and obviously we saw it at the weekend with the youth pushing on the left-hand side and things, how he finds them. But what I love about him is that he engages and he invites contact in. So he's obviously doesn't know he's not the most big, physical and athletic. So he uses his strengths, his super strengths to obviously find a way out, which is, he's very hippie, he's very South American in his feel. He loves inviting that contact in, and he'll do no touch turns, or where he'll invite them in and he'll just step across them, let the ball run across, and he knows he's past them then, where maybe his physical strengths can't get through there. But his passing range, like you said, is something to behold, really, because because he's got a great fade. Anybody, hopefully, after watching this video, will go and have a look at some analysis on him. His fade from sort of out to in to Bowen, and as you said at weekend, he tried to find that diagonal as well to Jude. I think obviously when Rice went to right back, they thought we'll try and target that area. But his range of passing is outstanding, and the message he puts on his passes is very, very good, because it's not just a case of getting it there from A to B, which sometimes you see with players in the middle of the park, but he gets it there with real quality. And the message on the passes, okay, take it to your chest, maybe put in a runner there, or he gets it there and they're allowed to take it out there. And again, I'm sure if we had access to Jared Bowen, he would say he's an absolute dream to play with, because he gives him the ball early. And I think, again, having those two players up front, you'll notice how many more sort of longer balls that he's been playing. And like I say, I watched him against City live at the Olympic Stadium and Wolves, and he was the standout player on both occasions.
Yeah, I think I've got to show you basically what Neil's talking about in terms of his long-range ability. And I think, as Neil was saying, this is a player who definitely suits more direct wingers, direct fullbacks, players who like to run off the ball. Obviously, one of the clubs he's being linked to is Manchester United, and they've got Brian Mbeumo who likes to run, Ahmad likes to run, Sesko likes to run, stuff like that. But then I want to show you this example at Selhurst Park, which really gives off an idea as to what Neil's talking about, where we're talking about messaging with passing, we're talking about the pace of the pass, and we're talking that he wants them to carry the momentum through with the pass. He's not looking, as Neil was saying, to get it to A to B, in terms of we're not looking for the ball to hang in the air for a long time. We're not looking to kill. We're not looking to move the opposition's shape. We're looking to attack, and these are attacking long balls. So, and we can see here, 59 minutes into the game, we can see that Mateus Fernandes is now dropped completely into the back line. He's actually splitting the centre halves in this example. He's bringing the ball out, nice, calm, few touches. We can see him scan over the shoulder. He looks at Palace's shape. It's a little bit more reserved, not much pressing going on. And you can see the still that we've got here where he strikes through the ball. He's hanging so far over the ball, and he's wellied it, and he's cut through the underside of the ball, and he's got that much pace on it, and he goes in behind Jared Bowen, who actually miscontrols the ball on the touch. But we can see just the amount of danger he's created with these long balls. Now, that for me is one of his key selling points. This is a player who can turn settled possession into attacks very, very quickly. And obviously that suits the way that West Ham plays, in terms of a little bit more reserved on the back foot, maybe counter-attacks, looking to launch big attacks. But it's not just these long balls. I've got a stat here, and I said this to Neil just before we started. If we look at the long ball success rate of players in the Premier League this season to have played 100 long balls, the only player with a pass accuracy of a long ball better than him is Rodri. And if we're talking about what West Ham are doing, you mentioned it to me just before, the conditions he's doing it in are a lot less favourable than Rodri. Sometimes there's often a lot of bodies around him. It's very congested. There's pressure right on him from the start. They're not very much a build-up team, and he's still finding large success rates with these passes. He's not always got, 2-3 seconds time to play.
Well, I would say that when I've looked at him there, and it was interesting because I didn't know that stat until we came in this morning, but I spoke about his long passes. He'll pull into these areas to receive the ball. He'll pull off to receive it off maybe supported the left back or the left winger to Somerville to get on the ball, and then we'll do the switches, which again, if you look back to City and Liverpool, why they've been so successful over the last few years, it's those switches of play, which most of the best teams do. Now you look at PSG, Arsenal have done it to a degree, but probably a little bit slower there. With Rodri, I would suspect that a lot of his long-range passing has been unopposed. So it would be playing the ball out to Doku, it'd be playing the ball out to maybe Bernardo Silva, who's pulled out to the side there and things. So I think, like you say, the quality of the team that he's doing it in, and also the circumstances in the formation, like we said there, he will have been playing very much as a two a lot of the time. Bowen will come in those areas and maybe be able to find him. But he's playing as a two in the Premier League with aggressive presses, physical presses, tactical presses. And for him to have those numbers in a team that's third bottom currently as we speak at the moment, and had a change of setup, a change of manager. And as we mentioned, when he came over to Southampton, he's been brought in that sort of 8 role, linking in and around the box with West Ham. I'm pretty sure that's where he was looking to play. So to have changed his game at such a young age to play the conditions and play where he is at, I think is outstanding. And I think the big thing we spoke about is he's out of possession work as well.
Yeah.
Incredible. So not only is he an attractive player on the eye. Again, I wouldn't say even on the eye. I'd say only on the eye once you're actually watching him in detail. I would say probably for most people, he'll pass the game by because he does the simple things to a very, very high level. Yep. You know, go back to, and we'll talk about some players, maybe comparisons later on. But out of possession, the amount of interceptions he makes, but he will also compete. So he will also get his toe in and he'll try and compete and he'll be a nuisance where maybe he can't physically, you know, dominate and win the ball by coming out with the ball, but he'll get little toes and he'll break the play up. But the amount of interceptions that I saw that he did, and that was purely by understanding the game at such a young age, and obviously having the sporting background, they do have intelligent footballers. But he was intercepting passes by just coming across. And there was 2 or 3 moments I saw at weekend where obviously they were playing against a top Arsenal team. And there was runners running off him. And I saw him communicating to others either to say, I can't vacate this position here because we're playing Arsenal. And he was telling people, Somerville and players to trap the runners and stuff. So I can just see out of possession, he's a very, very intelligent player in the way that he sees the game. Yeah,
I think he understands space so well. And as Neil was saying, we're going to move on now a little bit into the out of possession stuff. And I think I'm going to talk about out of possession, not just in terms of when his team are defending, but also when he doesn't have the ball, because that is one thing that I really do like about him in terms of he always offers himself in every situation. So I was saying before, again, if we look at the top ground duel winners in the Premier League this season, in terms of the totals, we can see obviously Anderson's top. We've got João Gomez in second, Iliman Ndiaye, Nico Williams, James Garner. We can actually see the ground duel success rate of all these players on the right. And we can see that he actually has probably one of the best success rates on that. Jimmy Garner, who Neil knows Neil knows well, is actually the top of this in terms of success rate. So this is not a volume defender. This is not someone who's running around engaging and losing a lot. No. This is someone who's a very, very comfortable ball winner, ground duel winner. And I think it's just a physicality. I think if this player was playing in a different league, there would be questions over he's 5'10", he's not really got any outstanding physical attributes. But because he's played for a couple seasons now in the Premier League, he's almost become accustomed to the pace and the power of the league. And I was speaking to Neil I watched him a lot when he was in Portugal. I went back and looked at sort of his physical development. He was a very slight, tiny, and we'll go to speak about comparisons, very much Vitinha-like in terms of the way he looked. But since coming to the Premier League, I was noticing how much broader he's getting, how much filled out his physique is becoming, and he just looks so much more powerful. And I think I watched a couple of games when he was playing for Portugal's under-21s. He was a little bit more of that creative eight, a little bit more of a Bernardo Silva, comes and drops the shoulder in between the lines. But now we've got a player who has the intelligence to do that, and we've seen it at Southampton as well. But he's now become the complete midfielder, the two-way midfielder, where he can go between the lines, he can run off the ball, he can make deep runs into the penalty box, he can come show inside, come show in front of the centre-halves. And I think, he's just a really, really intelligent player. But I want to go on a little bit into this contact and this riding contact, because I think we've got to speak about, he's obviously being largely linked to Manchester United. And I think a lot of people are saying that Manchester United, you mentioned enforcer before, so obviously like Tchouaméni, that kind of player is more of a enforcer, believer, a little bit more long-legged, outstanding sort of robust attributes. He might not aesthetically feel like he can do that, but it's key not to underrate the aspects that he does actually bring. But obviously, if we're speaking about Man United's midfield conditions, this is one midfielder for me that gives you multiple different solutions to multiple different games. Yeah.
I think just that, because I think in a midfield three, so I can see him, we're talking about Portugal and the World Cup, etc. You can just see him being able to do all three of those roles. That I still think if he played in, a double 8 or a double 10 even, he'd be as successful. But the fact that he's had that experience of dropping deep and the fact that he's interchangeable in there, for me, will not gone past a lot of sporting directors' eyes. That we're not just getting one player here and trying to fit him around here. We've got a player here that can potentially, you talk about maybe playing with Kobe, 100%. Could he play instead of Kobe? Because if top teams are going to compete, the best players are going to have to, you want to be challenging them best players to get the shirt and stuff. And obviously, I love Kobe to death, and he could definitely play with Kobe. Similar plays in terms of, and I know Uma will love this because I quoted this to Uma last week, that I talk a lot in my coach education about the players that make quick decisions in the head, or that I think the best players make quick decisions in the head, but late decisions at the feet. And he does that, just to go back to what you said, he does that so well, that he draws people in to make those late decisions, which gives him the most amount of time to be able to do it. And if, like you say, if you've got quick players who are ready and expecting those passes, it's an absolute dream. And if he is able to compete, I think the potential you're looking at is what type of defenders has he got behind him. You might need, high engaging defenders with pacing behind if you are going to have him in there, because he can compete, but he might not give you that, that physical profile. But in terms of controlling games and things, I think United would be absolutely, you have to be looking at him. And again, it's going to be a summer. You've got Wharton, you've got Anderson, you've got Fernandes, you've got Baleba potentially coming through or being available maybe. And the big thing for me with him is when I look at plays, we talk about levels. Whenever I do my scouting and when I've done my coaching, we talk about levels. For me, he's still got at least 2 levels to go. Yeah. So his next level for me is 100% going to a top 4, top 6 team and being able to be that player. The level above from that is he's then being, a Champions League player, the PSG model type thing. And for me, he's definitely got a couple of levels. Still being so young, still being so versatile, but having that abundance of skill acquisition. So he's got the technical ability, but he's got the skill acquisition to then take on board that. I think he could get into a City team. I think he could get to an Arsenal team, into a Liverpool team, as well as a United for sure. Again, it's do United finally take the hit on Fernandes and take the money potentially on offer?
I was going to speak to you about this, because obviously we were talking about multiple different solutions, and if we can imagine that they do get an enforcer, and if it is a player like Sherman, if it is a player like Baleba, could there be an actual world where Man United just go to a bit more of a flat 3 in terms of having a balance, a little bit more assurance in there in terms of compact unit in the centre? We know how obviously much Manchester United have struggled in the centre of the park recently. Yeah. How long have we got Bruno Fernandes for stuff like that? And he does feel like a player for me that is almost, it would be a future safe plan to get a player like that. You mentioned PSG just there. And when I think about him, I do think about him in that João Neves, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz mould, in terms of they could just go anywhere and solve problems. And yeah, I think it's the
Bernardo Silva, isn't it? If you look at Bernardo Silva, when he first came into City, he was this particular type of player. And we spoke about it, I think, earlier on in the season. I think it was after the Liverpool game, where he'd pop up here, he'd pop up here, he'd pop up here. And that's the type of model and type of player that becomes, an unbelievable attraction for a sporting director, for a coach. And, PSG won it last year in the final against Arsenal this year. And if you just look at their model, that is players who can receive the ball in tight areas, who can play anywhere. So you look at, Vitinha can come and receive the ball in here, and all of a sudden he's bopping it and coming out, or he's turning out and he's switching the play to Dembele, or he's playing it in here. And that type of player now, is becoming so popular and so attractable to these sporting directors and coaches because of that versatility, and Bernardo Silva for me has still been one of the best players this year at whatever age he is now, and obviously moving on at the end of the season will have a big shout in the World Cup, I'm sure. If he's starting the game, and a huge possibility for him to go anywhere. But I do think for United, he should be definitely one that's on the radar. Well, I'm pretty sure he's on the radar.
Pretty sure he's on the radar,
if not further down the line than that.
This segment is brought to you by Microsoft Copilot as part of a partnership with the Premier League. Okay, now welcome to our Premier League companion section powered by Microsoft Copilot, and today we're here to talk about the midfielders that Manchester United are being currently linked to that are all in the Premier League. So it appears that Manchester United are going for more Premier League proven players, and we can see that when we compare all of the 5 midfielders that Manchester United are looking at, most of that are being most concretely linked to the club, we can see that when we compare Elliot Anderson, Mateus Fernandes, Adam Wharton, Alex Scott, Carlos Baleba in the Premier League companion, we can see we get a nice debrief of all the individual players, what stands out for each player, the style contrast between each player. And we can see that obviously Anderson leads the group total for attacking output with most goals, assists, minutes. Wharton is a purist creator. He's played 21 through balls, an expected assist figure of 10.9. Fernandes is showing more balance with 5 goals, 7 assists. Strong all-around involvement. Scott carries decent shooting and carrying threat with 51 shots, 97 touches in the opposition's box. And Baleba is more of a defensive presence with 154 tackles, 92 interceptions, but with less end product. And I think the question that's now emerging for Manchester United fans is who to sign in midfield. Now, for me, and this entire piece is about the man in midfield for West Ham, which is Mateus Fernandes. And I think this is a midfielder that Manchester United have to go for. I think he's incredibly future-proof, and I'm talking that he could play at the base of a midfield, he could play in a 8-8, he could play one in front of a 6, he could play in the 10. And I think he's just such a future-proof move and such a safe move for Manchester United to build a midfield. And we know how much the midfield has been almost overlooked in the last few years. And I think he would offer you different solutions, play with different players, different partnerships in there. But I don't think it should just stop there for Manchester United. I think they need one, if not, in my opinion, 2 more. And I would, in my opinion, go and get someone like an Elliot Anderson on top of this. Now, I think Elliot Anderson is a brilliant line-breaking passer. I think he's a good player on the ball. I think he's got the right energy. Obviously, he's already stepped up to a more possession-dominant side recently with his country in England under Tuchel. Tuchel rates him very highly. And I think them 2 players bring different versatility. We're talking about Mateus Fernandes, who can play multiple different roles, really robust out of possession, but has such a simple feel on the ball in terms of his dictating and his tempo and the way he carries the ball and the way he takes the ball. Very intelligent midfielder when moving into space, across space, showing in front of the defenders. Elliot Anderson can be that more freer box-to-box player, someone who brings energy, legs, but also is one of the best passers in midfield in the Premier League. Now, on top of that, I do still think Manchester United need to redevelop their enforcer-like midfield profile. Someone who can replace Casemiro's ball winning, his goal threat. And whether or not that's in the Premier League is yet to be seen. That could be someone like Carlos Baleba. For me, I would look more towards Ligue 1 for like a Lamine Camara, who is more of a passer, but has ridiculous output off the ball. Someone like an Aurelien Tchouameni from Real Madrid, definitely more of a ball winner, stops defensive transitions. I think they need a well-rounded midfielder in Mateus Fernandes. I think they need someone who's a punch passer, someone who can snap a line, and that is Elliot Anderson. And then they need an enforcer, someone who can crash into the box, but also protect them on defensive transition and shield the back 4. And that would be where I look towards a player like Tchouameni. So let us know who you would like to see sign for Manchester United in the midfield. If you had the option of these 5 Premier League midfielders here, who would you take? 30 seasons of data all at your fingertips. From every moment that makes you a fan, from your club's history to your favourite players, go to the Premier League Companion powered by Copilot in the Premier League app. Well, I wanted to just touch on what we're talking about there in terms of this flexibility, in terms of the freedom, in terms of how much he goes and looks to solve problems. And I've got this game against Brentford, and I want to just hone in on this. Me and Neil were talking that we wanted to watch him in different states of games, we want to watch him when he struggles to get the ball against the Manchester City. We want to watch him when West Ham are 2-0 down. How does his head drop? How does he react? And I have got a game scenario from when they were 2-0 down against Brentford. Now, we can see that in this picture right here, they are building up nice, fluid, again, build-up shape behind him, 2 centre-halves. Now, we can see that where Mateus Fernandes has actually positioned himself, he's off the shoulder of Igor Thiago. So Igor Thiago isn't aware that he's there. Now, West Ham, ball's on the left-hand side. We can see they're actually struggling to break them down the left-hand side. They've got no one high holding the width. Mateus Fernandes runs off of Igor Thiago's shoulder. So we're talking about a player going from standing here. If we've got a player like this, he's not shying away from the ball. He's actually coming, looking for a solution off the shoulder, losing his marker and offering on the left side to accelerate this build-up. And that is exactly what happens. We can see Somerville gets the ball, turns on it. He's offered himself between the lines, so he's again vacated that position. He's gone and looked for the ball. He's gone and looked to solve problems. Let's not forget, it's 2-0 down in this situation. Gets the ball, turns on the half turn in a pocket, outside of the boot, lovely pass to Juve, and he puts in a ball in the box, and it was a great chance for West Ham to make it 2-1. But I just think that is a player, when we're talking about this modern midfielder, we're talking about players who can just go anywhere, who can be free. And at the time of recording, it looks a little bit like Michael Carrick is getting closer to becoming the Manchester United manager. What we've seen a lot in his time at Manchester United so far is that he's letting Cobby go and look for the ball. He's letting Casemiro bomb on. There's not too much rigidity in there. There's not too much staticness. There's a lot of movement. And I think this is a player who seamlessly does transition into a team that allows him to go and look for the ball and, empower him to do what he wants to do.
What you just mentioned there is type of stuff is an unpredictability in players. And we talk now in the coaching world, can our players be unpredictable? Now, probably 15, 20 years ago, you were thinking that was just about wingers and maybe strikers. Can you be unpredictable? But in the midfield, you have to be unpredictable. I did a coach education session last week where I was talking about how everybody now passes to feet. Yeah. Everything's passing to feet all the time, and coaching and academies and things is all passing to feet because we're obsessed with possession sessions because of the models that we've seen in the past, and it maybe makes a training session look really, really positive. Everybody's passing to feet and it's razzing and stuff and things. But how many times do people pass to space now? Now, what I watch with him is in Vitinha and certainly that wonderful PSG team that we're watching at the moment is how many times it's not to feet, it's to space. So what you just mentioned there is that he's earned the right. He's earned the right because he's able to receive the ball tight and engage, and people will look to go tight to him there. And if he rolls in, people will stop dropping off him. Yeah. So now he can start receiving the ball in front of him, and he can start playing those passes there. If people are thinking, actually, a big physical player is going to go tight there, he has got the quality and brain on him to then run off the backs and sides of people and then receive it in behind, which is what you're saying there. Sometimes I see a lot of academy players coming through and a lot of players, even in the Premier League, and I've been very fortunate. I was talking to somebody recently, last month I've been to Premier League games, Championship games, League One, League Two, National League, and there's a lot of same players, big physical players, athletic players, but maybe not having the football IQ that we talk about with this boy and with others and stuff. And that's when I say about levels. Yeah. It's not just the physicality, it's his game understanding levels that for me will take him to another level, and because of his his technical and skill acquisition parts of it there. And I think a lot of the time now is with sixes, with eights, the sixes and eights. Yeah. And then they're very happy to do that, and coaches are very happy if they do something for them in the way that they want to coach, and same with fullbacks and centre halves. But what he gives you there is that ability to run away off players. And even if he doesn't get that, somebody else is coming down there. So that you'd be very happy if United, if he's coming there now, he runs them away, you're very happy with Kobbie Mainoo's technical ability to then come and get that ball in there. Yeah. Potentially if Bruno does stay, if they both run away and then Bruno starts coming in there, etc. So I think just those type of players is what you're talking about now is that unpredictability factor in the, if I go tight to them, they've got the ability to run off the back to sides of me. They've got the ability to take me into wide areas, like you spoke about there, that I don't want to go to. So one of the reasons probably he's got a lot of those diagonal balls and things is because he's pulling into areas here where midfielders do not want to go because they're vacating the middle. And we're always told, deny the middle. Yeah. So you see everything's packed in here, but he's got the ability to pull out here, play passes in here, switch the play in there, or engage, because he's got that 8 and 10 mentality in him still that he can do it. So I think that's what makes him such an attractive player to me when I watched him. And it'd be interesting to see the comparisons there to Anderson, to a Wharton, because I know we spoke earlier in the season about Anderson potentially being a plug and play player for Manchester United. And I know Scholes's talked about Anderson being the one that he would go for United and things, but again, if you look at the values and monetary aspects that I'm sure sporting directors are looking at, what is an Anderson, what is a Wharton going to potentially cost you versus maybe a Fernandes, particularly if West Ham go down and his age and what he gives you. And then and I know I'm going to get stick, and I know United fans are going to absolutely say, how can you get rid of player of the year? I'm not advocating for Bruno Fernandes to go. But they will sometimes football clubs, and obviously Sir Alex was unbelievable at that, is to recognise when, okay, this is the moment. Maybe not when you've just been declared player of the year. I get that. But I'm old enough to remember Hughes, Kanchelskis and Ince going in the summer to allow players to come through. And it might be that, wow, imagine if you had an Anderson, Kobbie and Fernandes in there potentially. Yeah. I know I'm going to get stick for that. But do you know what I mean?
It's future-proof, and I think that you've got to think for the next 1, 2, if not 3, 4 years, haven't you? When it comes to recruiting, when it comes to looking at profiles, when it comes to getting the average age of your squad down. If you're looking at a midfield rebuild, the time will come where Bruno Fernandes will leave. Obviously, he's going to go to the World Cup this summer, and who knows? Players come back and they are different players. He's not a player who's going to lose his legs. He's never going to look like that. But there will become a time where that player does have to either be sold or at least have his minutes carefully allocated.
I think Arsenal might be an interest. I wouldn't rule out Arsenal potentially if they've done their homework, particularly if the rumours about Zubamendi maybe not being the type of player that has settled, although has had a tremendous year and has been part of their success this year. But there's rumours about him maybe wanting to go back to Spain. He's quite a home bird type of a player, and the club that he came from, etc. So I wouldn't rule out Arsenal potentially thinking, well, that's a very similar type player in terms of who can come and get the ball, start attack, switch to play, recycle the ball, etc. City, are they going for Anderson? So there's just lots of things. Liverpool, they're looking to replace McAllister with his legs potentially. So it's
quite funny because obviously at the time of recording, it is really only Manchester United who are leading the race. But it does feel like, because of the amount of different solutions he offers, this is a player who could slot into literally any team. And I think that's what's like really appealing about him, because it won't be a competition for the wages. It won't be a competition for the money, because he potentially will be relegated. Yeah. So there will be just a case where it could just turn to a free-for-all. I remember it with Liam Delap in the summer, where it was City, Chelsea, United all wanted to go at him. Yeah. So I think, this is a very, very good player. I wanted to Neil was making a point before in terms of having them different solutions in these areas and having the understanding to when to go touch tight, when to come receive the ball. So as I mentioned, they've just shown you running off the shoulder and drifting into these spaces to go and offer himself higher. I want to now show you a game where he's playing Burnley, who were obviously a little bit more of a reserve team. West Ham are 2-0 up. How does he conduct himself on the pitch? And I've got this example, and I really, really like this. So we can see that when the keeper's got the ball at his feet, this is just after a corner's come in, so the positions aren't really positions. So we can see that Mateus Fernandes, he's on the right-hand side. He's pretty much playing right back. He recycles possession, brings it back inside, and we can see that when Souček's got the ball, he's telling everyone to calm down. He's, again, orchestrating that build-up play. He's conducting the build-up play. Souček's a little bit ahead of him. What does he do? He drops completely out of midfield, splits the centre-halves wide, gets his studs rolling on the ball, and plays, again, as Neil was saying, we're hitting space. So we can see just how far he's got himself over the ball. He's launched this ball into space, and the first touch that Jarrod Bowen's actually got on it, bearing in mind that this is just after his first third of the pitch, he ends up feeding the ball right through into space. Jarrod Bowen's first touch is this screenshot here, which is one of the most threatening positions you could ask your team to be in. He's got a cutback option in Somerville there. The pace of play is really, really fast, so there's a little amount of Burnley defenders to keep up with that, and it ends up being a cross that Jarrod Bowen drags across the box. Now, obviously, he's not got an assist for that. He's not got a goal for that. He's not got any contribution to that, but he's completely constructed that move, and the same way he constructed that Brentford move we showed before. And we're showing the different versatile options he has, that Swiss Army knife where he can go and, I can go play between the lines. I can go and play off the shoulder in here. I can go and ask for the ball, but then I can just go and split my centre halves, get them wide, play balls. And I think this is a really marvellous midfielder. I think he could be one of the best buys of the summer, depending on the price. His attitude seems spotless. He doesn't let his head drop on the pitch with losing game states. He demands the ball. He's got really good temperament to him. I just think he could be something really special. And I think we've often spoke about Elliot Anderson, and to be fair, he's gone on a little bit more. And we always went, the bits he could do better is the goal getting. Yeah. And he has done that recently, to be fair to him. So that development arc is coming for him. Mateus Fernandes, in his younger career at Southampton, at Sporting, he was profiled as that number 10, number 8, and he can get the goals and assists. He's got 6 goals and assists in the Premier League this season, which is very, very good for a West Ham team in midfield. Someone who's not just playing between the lines, but someone who's coming and getting the ball off the keeper. Yeah. And I think the ceiling could be really, really high for him. I think it could be one of the best pound for pound deals this summer, depending on what happens with West Ham. I think West Ham fans are comparing him to obviously what happened with Declan Rice in his last season. I'm not saying he's an £100 million player, but they're looking at him and going, this is another marvellous midfielder West Ham have got hold of that we could lose to one of the big ones, and it stunts the club for a good couple of years. So,
and I think potentially, I think Jarrod Bowen would probably be owed I know he's a very loyal player and things, but I think he'd probably be owed. Again, I'm going to get United fans, West Ham fans. But I think, West Ham fans will probably, similar to Rice in a way, I think if they do go down, then I think, Bowen is deserving of a move. I think that won't be big money either. So, like you say, it'd be interesting how many, I wouldn't say a fire sale, but I think there'd be a few potentially leaving them. So, it's so important, isn't it, for them that they stay up? I'm sure they'll look to. He's probably signed a 5-year contract, so got 4 years left to pay. You're gonna have to pay that plus that. I'm sure they're probably hoping he's going to go at the World Cup as well.
Yeah, and get the stock up.
Get
but PSG to come in.
I think he might just miss out on the World Cup. I think due to that. Obviously, just made his debut recently. And obviously, you look at the midfielders Portugal have got for the World Cup. So maybe the Euros in 2 years' time will be when a couple of the older guard, Bernardo Silva, etc., will come out of there. But it'd be very, very interesting where he goes in the summer. And like you say, I like the word you talk about, plug and play. Yes, okay, every move's different. You're not sure every move's going to work out. But I think the quality that he's got. Again, no disrespect to West Ham, but like you say, if he's got forward players with pace and with quality, and he's not only feeding them, but then going in and playing with them higher up the pitch, I can only see him kicking on. And like I say, I think there's another level to go after that.
Yeah. If you were to, I think United probably need 3, but let's say if they got 2 realistically, would he be one of you 2?
I think if it was going to be a summer to go and get a couple of players, I would go and get Anderson and him. I like Wharton.
Yeah.
But I just think, when I really watched him, I really like him, and I just think he's got maybe levels that maybe Anderson and Wharton haven't got to go. Not to say that they can't get there.
Yeah.
But when I look at him, I see Vitinha. Yeah. I see being a conductor, playing games through his tempo and things like that. And he looks nailed onto a PSG player. Yeah. So who's to say PSG aren't going to come in?
I know. When you said that before, I was like, he's so similar to like Fabian Ruiz in there, Vitinha, João Neves, very. Not very small, but very compact, technical, understanding of the game's top. Yeah. And he just strikes me as one of them players. They love to play in
tight areas, then break.
Yeah,
which is him.
And just go all over the park, just connecting and combining with people. Yeah, I think he would be one of mine. I think he'd be one of my 2, if not 3 midfielders. It depends how much money, obviously, Man United have got there. But I think if we're talking value for money, I think in terms of value for money, he's probably the best in terms of what you actually pay in to what you could get.
Well, because even look at the fees that were being touted for Belieber last year. Yeah, pronouncing that right. Belieber last year. They were talking up to 100 million, wasn't it? Yeah. Had he had 1 season then?
Yeah, just 2. I think it was like 1.5. I think.
Yeah. So. I'm sure West Ham will point to those numbers, but like you say, it might not help the cause with going down. Who's to know if he's got a clause in his contract? I don't know. People will also say he might have had 2 relegations in 2 seasons.
Hey, it's very easy way to look at football. Very easy way to look at football. But I remember. Yeah, it's just funny because like Anderson could have had the same and gone for 100 million and stuff like that. It's just mental. But Roy Keane, like maybe. But brilliant video. That really enjoyed that. Definitely. In terms of me and Neil, I think he'd be a top edition 20 top 4 club. I think Manchester United, I'd love to have him here. I think multiple problem solver. And I just think, I think he's mustard. So young, so complete already. And top work that. So thank you very, very much for watching this episode of the Overlap Breakdown. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And we will see you again next week for more analysis. Thank you.